What's going on, y'all? I'm here to talk about Salamence and the real star of the show, in my opinion at least, Shelgon. Before I can get into the buffs and changes that I've given to these guys from my ROM hack, Pokemon Scrambled Scarlet, if you're a new viewer here, you've never heard of any of those things before, and you don't know what you're looking at, first of all, shout out to you. I appreciate you clicking on the video. And then second of all, I highly recommend that you just pause the video and read the description. It'll give you a lot of much needed context that'll explain how the ROM hack is balanced, why it's balanced the way it is, and my overall philosophy and approach to changing all these Pokemon. But in general, every single Pokemon is heavily reworked and reimagined, and these guys are no exception. Shelgon, on top of being an incredible Pokemon in its own right, is also now a branched evolution, so you can pick between Salamence or Roaring Moon. Here's a quick flash of what Roaring Moon looks like, the abilities, the move pool, all that stuff. So you can give this a look and pause if you want to read it. But of course, Roaring Moon will have its own video talking about all that stuff in more detail, which should be up in about 15 minutes. So finish this video first if you're listening to this upon release, of course, and then you can check out the Roaring Moon video after. But Salamence, I will be comparing and talking a little bit more about Roaring Moon in a bit because I want to compare the choice between Salamence and Roaring Moon and like the pros and cons and the reasons you would pick them. But as a general rule of thumb, I balance every single Pokemon that is a branched evolution to have genuine, to be a genuinely difficult choice. It's up to personal preference, which of the two designs you prefer, and that's really the most important thing. That's all I would really care about. But of course, there are other mechanical implications like abilities, like which ability seems more fun for you to use, which one benefits your specific team more. Again, if you're playing Teamlocked, and if you don't know what that is, again, I recommend you pause the video and read the description. There's bullet points explaining what Teamlocked is, because that's how the game is balanced and designed to be played. Doesn't mean you have to play it that way, but that is how I'm balancing it. And in this case, getting that choice between Shelgon, Salamence, or Roaring Moon is a really, really fun one. If you're being super, super like objective, Shogun is the best. If you want to be that guy who's like, what's the best? I don't like people like that personally, but at least when they're looking at my ROM hack, because I put a lot of effort into making every Pokemon interesting, and I don't think you should give a fuck what's best necessarily, because no matter what, you're gonna have the tools to work around things because you have so many cool move options and ability choices and move relearner and items and EVs and all this crap that you can experiment with. You're always going to have the ability to play around. Obviously, yes, you can take into account which one synergizes better with your specific team, but I would never say one is objectively better ever. That's all by design. But if you want to be that guy, I would say I prefer saying something is easier to use because everything is really good. Something might just be easier to use than other things. And Shelgon is a really good example of that because Shelgon is incredibly easy to use and incredibly reliable. And it's just, you can look at it and understand, right? So you've got Shell Armor Breaking Swipe, which is a free debuff. It drops attack and special attack both by -1. Another cool little thing I did with the stats here, by the way, is if you're wondering why I min-max Shelgon so much, is because I really wanted them to have essentially, so Shogun's defense switches to its attack when it evolves, and its special defense switches to its special attack when it evolves. I think that's super fucking sick. I love little number things like that, so I think that's really cool. So that's why they're so damn. It also makes sense for them to be so high. Shogun's whole thing is about, if you read the Pokedex, it's all about. Look at it, dude. It's like look at him. He's little arm. He's the endurance Pokemon. If you read the Pokedex, it's talking about how hard the shell is. It makes all attacks bounce off. Its armor is tough. It's rugged. So that's why it's got rough skin. And then, of course, Shell Armor and Bulletproof, all three abilities are fucking incredible with his stat distribution. And he's not even passive either. 95 attack is definitely going to get the job done, especially if you're clicking super effective moves with Move Relearner and stuff. You've also got reliable recovery in both Molt and Wish. You can Wish Pass. Although you don't have a switch move on Shogun, so that's another disadvantage. That's one disadvantage. Meanwhile, Salamence and Roaring Moon both do get access to Parting Shot, given that their whole thing is about being super aggressive and angry and destroying things, which is also why I gave them Sheer Force. If you read Salamence's Dex entries, it talks about that. And I also just wanted them to be more interesting to use over Roaring Moon because, of course, most people are going to prefer Roaring Moon. So outside of the Dragon and the Flying and Dark dual typings, providing different resistances and different defensive utility and offensive utility. In general, Salamence is bulkier because of Intimidate, but in terms of raw bulk, Roaring Moon is bulkier because it's got more HP, its defense is basically the same, and then its FF is higher. So Roaring Moon is tankier overall, but Salamence making, Intimidate is obviously an invaluable ability in a Nuzlocke context, in an in-game context, because getting Intimidate switches is very easy to do. So obviously Intimidate is very useful. And then Moxie is really good for sweeping with Scarf. You can slap on a Scarf or Dragon Dance at the end game and obviously get some cheesy sweeps. That's why personally I would not want to use Salamence. I think it's the most boring of the three. I think if I had to rank them, I mean, I love Shelgon. I love the buffs I gave him, but he could probably get a little bit boring towards. I mean, he's very fucking good. You can argue he's broken. This is something that like defensive Pokemon are hard to make broken in a ROM hack like this, but this guy's definitely bordering on it. Like he's definitely the most consistent. Like he can just do whatever. Like, he can just sit on things consistently because he's so fat. And as you can see, Bulletproof has 50 new moves. I've covered this in a Tyranitar video. This is the second out of like I believe the 5 or so, roughly 5 Pokemon I have planned to get Bulletproof because it's such a fucking broken ability now. It's got an extremely extended list of moves, all of which are very common moves. Not all of which, but a lot of which are very common moves versus the AI. The most notable immunities here are stuff like Ice Beam, Focus Blast, Aura Sphere, Sludge Bomb, Rock Wrecker, Meteor Beam, Steel Beam, Flash Cannon, Draconic Beam, Fickle Beam. Man, dude, immunity to Fickle Beam is so nice for like Kieran fights. This guy's, man, Eternal Beam, Shadow Ball, all types of crazy moves that you're just completely immune to. You take 0 damage, straight up 0 damage. And of course, a lot of these you resist. Again, it's 50 moves, so I recommend you just look at the Google Sheet when you're done with this video and look at them all. Or just trust me when I say it's a lot of moves because it's 50 of them and I have them all listed out. So, yeah. Shelgon's incredible defensively because of that, and also Shell Armor with that Eviolite and that insane bulk with Eviolite, and Breaking Swipe and healing moves, allowing him to reliably 1v1 pretty much anything you need him to that isn't immediately threatening, like a one-shot, basically. Of course, there are some things on AI that can shut him down, but overall, I mean, he's definitely he's very reliable, very brainless to use. And then Rough Skin, plus heal moves. You can also use Rocky Helmet because keep in mind there is item clause intended in this ROM hack, so essentially you're not always going to want to run your Violite on your Shelgon if you have another NFE on your team, because he's already tanky enough where he doesn't need that extra Violite bulk all the time anyways. So you might want Rocky Helmet for that extra chip to pivot around, keep baiting switches over and over again to keep chipping things down with with Rough Skin. And you can also use First Impression to finish something. Actually, no, I did give that to only... Yeah, I only give it to Salamence for obvious reasons. Never mind. Forget I said First Impression, although that is good on Salamence for some niche cases, of course. Sheer Force, as you can see, all of the Sheer Force boosted moves are labeled on screen, bolded in big letters. So you've got your reliable Dragon Pulse, Dragon Rush, 100 base power, no drawback, Sheer Force boosted. You've also got Air Slash, 80 base power, no drawback, 100% accurate. No, the only moves that are inaccurate on the screen right now are Hurricane, Fire Blast, Hydro Pump, Inferno, Dragon's Fury, Dive Bomb, and that's it. So not very many, and you have alternatives to all of those moves as well. You've got Surf or Aqua Tail for over Hydro Pump. You've got obviously Temper Flare and Flamethrower and Heat Wave and all that shit over, Blast Burn, Wildfire. So I did give them a lot of level up fire moves because if you again read the decks, Salamence's whole, I mean, he even learns stuff like Ember and Flamethrower naturally because a lot of his decks just talk about how he just spews fire everywhere and destroys everything, which is also why I gave him Sheer Force. And it's also, again, it does make him stronger than Roaring Moon. I was trying to compare them earlier. So while Roaring Moon is tankier, Salamence has Intimidate, which makes him tankier on the physical side by a lot. They have different unique resistances. For example, Salamence resists fighting, while Roaring Moon is weak to it. Roaring Moon resists dark and stuff, while Salamence is neutral to it. So stuff like that is really important to keep in mind, depending on your team and the point in the game you're at. For example, versus somebody like Rhyme, you would definitely, obviously prefer the dark typing on Roaring Moon, but it's not that deep. All 3 of them can be totally fine for Rhyme. Not to mention Shelgon's Raw Bulk is definitely invaluable there. Bagon is great up until level 25. Same with all of the baby pseudo legendaries. I give them all, the Dews treatment as well, so I'm not going to leave him behind. He's much tankier, a bit faster, and incredibly powerful with Brute Force. And then, of course, he's got that niche Rough Skin Mold Breaker. Rough Skin is kind of nice with that Molt, or just getting chip stuff early game. And then Mold Breaker is nice once in a while if you want to bypass a specific ability, which is useful. There are a lot of really good abilities in this ROM hack, so ignoring them is nice, but it is still relatively niche, especially early game. But it's there, just 3 ability slots. You can switch to it if you need it. But the main one you'd be using is Brute Force on Bagon. Incredibly strong, 75 attack Brute Force. You can just click buttons on him, which is why he doesn't even get a physical Dragon Stab move until after level 15, which, on certain paths, the first boss fight, well, on all boss paths, level 10 Nimona, 11 Kieran, 11 Carmine, 12 Kieran, and then 13 for that first boss fight. The first 4 boss fights of the game, you don't get access to a physical stab move for that reason because it's just really strong. 15 is honestly generous. I probably could have made it later, but I think it's fine. Arcane Fangs is also really, really dope on Shelgon. I could probably make that. Well, it has to be every 5 levels. I don't want to ruin that pattern. God damn it. Maybe, actually this works. Hold on. Put these at 40. I gotta put a note to myself. Hold on. sorry, I gotta answer this. Reminder to, sorry, I was answering something. Reminder to fix level ups on Bagon, Shogun. Okay. So, yeah, I can swap these all around now. Put these all 30, just push them all 5 levels earlier. And then I can put double edge. It's kind of early there, though. Whatever, who cares? I can do something like this. I just want a couple levels of Bagon arcane things, that's why. Maybe I'll even do this. That's really strong early on. Okay, I'll do like 22. Let him cook. I don't know. I like Bagon. He's cool. And obviously it's incredible on Shogun because he's so bulky. Oh, Jesus. Did not mean to click that. Sorry. Okay, we're good. So, yeah. I just really think it's really a neat move on Bagon. And of course, it's very, very good on Shogun because he's so bulky. He just heals. And it's even good on Salamence, of course, with Intimidate and other bulky stuff. So you have full freedom to change your Salamence set depending on the fight, right? Sometimes you're going to want that immediate damage from sheer force, especially if you're faster than them already, or just with Scarf. Moxie is better for snowballing, which is why dual wing beat is at level 60, by the way. It's because dual wing beat, Moxie Scarf is really strong, 90 base power, no drawback, and it breaks sashes. So I don't really want to encourage 6-0ing AI teams with Scarf Moxie. So, of course, they're still going to get access to dual wing beat, but it's a late move. And hopefully there will be other things that'll stop you from 6-0ing with Moxie, because there's going to be Quick Claw on the AI, pretty much always in the back, which will always move first, and outspeed you, unless you're using a priority move or something. But yeah, other advantages. So I'll cover this more in the Roaring Moon video, but Roaring Moon is exclusive Draco Jet. He is faster. He is, in terms of raw attack, he is stronger, but and of course he can also boost his attack with Protosynthesis, but Sheer Force is a much more reliable way. So overall, Salamence is much stronger, not much more, much stronger in terms of raw damage output with Sheer Force and Moxie, so that's cool. And of course that typing, advantages versus disadvantages for the typing combo. And then I already covered why Shogun is incredible. I mean, keep him the whole game by all means. It's a good choice, so it's really up to which of the 3 you would like to use the most. Yeah, I think I've covered pretty much everything. I mean, there are tons of little niche, not niche, but little interactions I could discuss, like Sky Attack plus Moxie Sky Attack gives you +1 attack now. So not only is it an incredible nuke move, just to blow something up, but then you get an attack boost, so you can use that with DD and Moxie Sky Attack, or even Sheer Force boosted Sky Attack. Obviously you don't get the attack boost anymore, but if you are trying to get a specific OCO range on something, then that's good. In terms of physical flying stab, so you only have Fly, which is 95 base power, and in-game, obviously, so maybe not obviously, but in-game, Fly is, the drawback for Fly is pretty much nothing. I mean, on competitive, it's horrible. For the player, for the AI, Fly is a horrible move, but because you can always pivot around it, but yeah. The drawback of Fly, in competitive is not really a factor in-game, because the AI is not going to switch out of your Fly. So it's basically just a 95 base power, Sheer Force boosted, reliable flying stab. Acrobatics is a bit stronger if you're using like some cheesy, I don't even know what you would, maybe like a Salakberry Endure Moxie set with Acro. That's pretty great. Really cheesy, honestly, but it's definitely good. You don't even need to use Endure either. You could like cook to get into Endure range, to Blackberry range, and then you could click Endure on the Quick Claw, whatever. All types of ways you can cook some sweeps up, which isn't my cup of tea, and I might have having to rebalance stuff to prevent sweeping even more, or just to have a soft ban on setup moves, but that doesn't stop even like Endure Pinchberry shit. So I don't know. We'll see how the game plays out. But overall, this guy got tons of options, tons of strong, powerful moves, of course. Yeah, Draconic Beam is 156 base power, Sheer Force. Dragon Hammer is even stronger. I did give them special moves earlier in a lot of cases, not all cases, because there just wasn't enough room. For example, I could have put Draco earlier than Dragon Ascent, but it's fine. But stuff like, for example, Draconic Beam in Aeroblast are earlier than moves like Dual Wing Beat and Dragon Hammer. That's just some examples, but yeah. Overall, very fun, versatile Pokemon, Shogun as well, and check the next video to learn more about Roaring Moon and how they work. I appreciate you listening to the end. Let me know in the comments down below if you did, and I'll be back for more coming up. Peace.